was.
Okay, I'll ask you both first question then. So, like I was saying, if you can start at sort of the beginning and tell us a bit about yourself and how you got involved in local history and how all of this interest led to the events of 1993.
Right, well, I'm Paul Kemp. How did I get interested in history? It was basically to do with Thunnacall, because my family was the last family to live at Thunnacall. My brother was the last person born at Thunnacall, which if you're from Gainsborough, most people would know where Thunnacall was. Unfortunately demolished now, around about 63, 64. We saw a picture in Mick Ford's, the local photographer's shop, and my mum says, you know, that's our old house. And obviously being a young lad at that time, I thought, no, we didn't live in a mansion. I never did, unfortunately, but all my brothers and sisters did. And she says, oh, I'd love a picture of that. So I was messing about with photography in the early 70s. So I got all the family pictures out, recopied it, enlarged it, framed it, did her a picture. And then as people come to my mum's house, they'd admire it and said, where did you get a nice big picture like that? And I said, well, I did it for my mum and whatever. And they says, oh, I've got family pictures of my dad's shop, my dad, you know, where we used to live. So copied that from, enlarged it, and it grew from that, my collection, or the start of a collection of pictures. And then I wanted to know a little bit more about them. Found out it was, you know, these old buildings and places and yards and shops from the 30s, 40s, 50s was interesting. Just started learning a lot more about it, and one thing led to another basically, so that's how I got started. So, and then I ended up collecting more and more, collecting postcards, and luckily with my job, working for British Gas, you used to go around people's houses and you talk to the old folk, and there'd be pictures on the wall, and they was interested because you knew what the pictures was, and you know, that led to a good relationship, customer relationship. And they say, oh, if you want to borrow this, if you want to borrow that, you know, you're quite welcome to. And one thing led to another, and ended up with thousands and thousands of pictures. So that was my basic introduction into local history. So.
Yeah, cool. My name's Andy Birkitt. I first got interested in history when I worked at Rosie's. I was interested in the firm itself and how famous the firm had become worldwide. Unfortunately, I then got made redundant, and I went to work at the Old Hall for, well, it was supposed to be a year, and I ended up doing it for about 18 months with a thing called Manpower Service Commission, doing conservation and restoration work. And the people that I was working with inspired me to get more interested, because you was learning about objects that were part of the town's past all the time, conserving them, looking after them. And then one of the first things I actually found was the old Home and Colonial sign, for a shop sign, that I'm hoping to get back to the Heritage Centre at some point. So I was doing that. I used to spend most of my evenings in the library researching stuff. In those days, handwriting everything out, because no computers that were, well, there probably was laptops, but I couldn't have afforded one of them. And then I met Paul by accident, really. He was selling the prints that he was talking about on the market, and then we got chatting, realised that we both had similar interests, and we've been really good friends ever since. And that's how it started, really, for me as well. So, and we started, well, Paul was doing slideshows anyway, and I started going out with him to do them, and that's when we produced our first little booklets, for which, funnily enough, one of them that we still sell, that Paul's been doing ever since we started, is the art book, and it's never, and we probably never will be finished, because as soon as Paul gets it to a stage, it's like, oh, I've just found out something else. And that's a nice thing about Gainsborough's past. You know, we've both been doing it for over 30 years, and we're still learning.